everybody, and welcome to my Planet Coaster control tutorial. This short video will hopefully give you guys a better idea of how to use the controls in Planet Coaster and will enable you to build the best park possible. Just hanging out in the Shire, gonna give you the basic movement controls. So WASD does move the camera around. There are two different camera modes. So this mode is what I call the build mode. So this just allows you to stay at the same elevation of the park and moving around with WASD. You press T and you switch to the other camera mode. Well, now pressing W, it'll actually go forward into the direction the camera's facing, A and D allow you to strafe, and S moves you backwards. It's a little frustrating that there isn't some sort of toggle that tells you which of the camera modes you're currently in, so it's kind of hard to tell. Sometimes you gotta hit T a few times just to figure out what mode you're in. This mode is good for going around and building. You can craft things and move pieces around, real easy to do large scale things. And then when you press T, it's easier to get indoors and actually move around and build things while you're going around. It's very similar to the guest camera mode, which we'll switch to in just 1 second. Switching to the guest camera mode is a really good way to kind of get a feel of your park, because sometimes you lose sight of the sort of scale just floating above the park. It's kind of hard to appreciate things from the first person perspective. Now in this control, while in first person to the guest, you cannot actually control the guest moving around with WASD. Arrow keys doesn't do anything. The guest is going to go on their predetermined path. What you can do is hold down the center mouse button and look around, but beyond that, you cannot actually control the guests. Excuse me, those dudes are just running right into me. Oh, and another quick tip: when you're moving in the free camera, you can actually hold shift to speed up. So if you want to zoom around the park a little faster, that's a good way to do it. As far as I can tell, shift in the other camera mode does not actually do anything. Next, we'll move on to a brand new blank park in the desert to give you guys a little bit of insight on the build controls for the game. Down here you have your different options. So first thing, you have blueprints. These are things that you can either save yourself by selecting a variety of building pieces or scenery and saving as a blueprint. You see a couple things I've done down here, like I have just a very simple lamp with a branch attached to it. I've done a small fence using some of the wooden planks. So these are sorts of things that I just like to reference from time to time. And they finally changed this. So previously, every time you placed a blueprint, it would close this menu, but now it stays open, and that is super nice to see. The next tab is the coaster tab, where you have blueprints, so pre-made coasters. You have different types here, or you can go ahead and select them all and see them. So we have a Falco, different things like that. You can place them at any height, and how moving these up and down is by holding shift. So that's how you move things up and down. So you can go ahead and select your height and place it. Furthermore, in this menu, you can go to custom coasters, and there you have all the different types of coasters that you'll be building yourselves. You have steel coasters, the hybrid coasters, and the wooden coasters. To build a coaster, you just simply select the one you want. You can check out the information here. You can see the sort of station type. You have the angle snap and the description, as well as some information about the ride. Angle snap is important because right now we're going to teach you how to go ahead and rotate things. Rotating objects in Planet Coaster, you can either hit Z, just tap it, and it'll rotate it 45 degrees in generally a clockwise manner, or you can go ahead and hold Z and rotate the mouse button, and what that's going to do is it's going to rotate whichever direction your mouse is going. Right now we have our angle snap set to 15 degrees, so that's what it's going to go to. We can go ahead and update to 30, and now it's going to snap it every 30 degrees. Or you can go ahead and turn that off also by hitting the space bar. That'll toggle angle snap on and off. So you toggle it off, and now you're no longer on an angle, so you can place it wherever you'd like. We'll go ahead and just leave it lined up here and place it down. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to start trying to have you build the coaster. You can do this, or you can cancel out and come back to it any time by hitting escape. You can pick the coaster again and hit edit track. Different track options are right here, or you can work on the station. Track options for this hybrid roller coaster. So it's a wooden roller coaster, but with steel beams that allows it to perform inversions. Brand new to the alpha and full release of the game. For this coaster, you have standard track. We have a chain lift. We also have drive tires, friction brakes, trim brakes, and a block section. Over on the right, again, you have angle snap, again toggleable by hitting spacebar. We have auto tunnel, which will allow the coaster to dig into the ground automatically. We have heart markers relative to terrain and the sea. We have track supports, so whether or not the actual coaster will leave supports, you can toggle that on and off. And then we also have the camera mode, which is the free camera mode, so every time you place something, it just does it. If we go ahead and do attach, we're going to place something. Every time we place something, it's going to automatically move the camera. I recommend doing free camera mode. I think it's a little less jarring to have the camera jump around every 5 seconds. but that's just my personal preference. Oh, and I forgot right after this, we have loops and rolls. So each coaster is going to have different things that it can do. Sometimes they have the same thing, sometimes they don't. Some coasters are capable of inversions, high turns, things like that. So a lot of that you'll be able to find out just by exploring the options and also checking the descriptions of the coaster. And when it comes to building the coaster itself, you have a few options here. These little bubbles, you can go ahead and raise it, or actually you can turn on angle snap so it actually sticks to that angle. You can raise it, you can turn it left to right. You can change the banking by torquing this around, so it actually goes pretty far. It goes the full 90 degrees. And then you can also change the length of that piece of track. All these things are dependent on what type of track it is. Some are incapable of turning, going up, things like that. And some can do other things. And I won't be going into full detail of how to build a roller coaster, but I will let you guys know how to use the test. So when you build the coaster, you can start the test at any time, even while you're building it. The coaster does not have to be complete. You can hit start test, and this is going to give you the ratings for excitement, fear, nausea, speed, lateral, vertical, and forward G-forces. So it'll give you some good information about this. You can also turn on the heat map, so we can turn on excitement and fear and nausea. So whether or not people are feeling these things, it tells you where on the coaster they're feeling them. Super useful tool, really cool. We can turn that off, and there you go. So not really much of a roller coaster, but it gives you guys a good overview of how to control the build functions of the coaster, and hopefully will allow you to build your own. From roller coasters, you have track rides, which behave in a relatively similar way. Same track controls, things like that. These are more low-speed rides, a lot of them used for transport or just a nice slow ride through the park. Next up are the flat rides. There are currently 27 in-game. These are even simpler than the coasters. You just place whatever ride you want. We'll go ahead and grab the cube, place it down. You can place an entrance and an exit on it. There you go. Then after placing the entrance and exit, you can go ahead and connect the paths. The function works the same for the coasters and flat rides. I just forgot to show you. So there you go. It's going to go ahead and allow you to place a queue. And then once you place a queue close enough to a path, I placed it really far away. Let's go ahead and bring it all over. There we go. And connect that up. There you go. So now that is all nice and connected. And then you get a regular path, and then you'll connect that as well. The path on the exit does not need to be a queue. In fact, it can't be a queue. It has to just be a regular path. After rides, we have shops and facilities. Again, you have blueprints here, so these are kind of just built-in ones for the game, or you can download them from the Steam Workshop, and they should appear here. And then you also have custom shops. So we have a whole bunch of different things now, from ATMs, energy drinks, to gulpy slushes, the hat stores. These things are very simple. You just take them, you can place them near a path if you immediately want to have them connect. You just go ahead and place it right there. And this is going to open up the build menu. And the build screen, or the build grid, whatever you want to call it, is super useful for building scenery. We'll come back to scenery, but since we have a shop already set down, I will go ahead and start building on it. We're going to move over to the buildings. Again, you have blueprints that are pre-made ones, or you can go to custom. Custom is what I focus on. And it can be a little daunting because there is a lot of stuff here, but once you learn all the filters and things like that, it makes it a little bit easier. So the first thing we want to do is kind of encase this a little bit. We want to make it a little bit bigger than just this simple square. So we're going to go ahead and select walls and wall pieces. This is going to allow us to kind of focus on just walls and kind of figure out what we want to do here. We're going to try some of these new pieces here. We have these natural wood planks, and so I'm just going to start placing these around. Placing these can be a little tricky. As you can see, you work on a grid system, so it's kind of a one-by-one grid, and you can decide which side things are going to go on. Generally, when I'm building, I want them on the inner square, because that way I can put stuff on the front of it, and it'll generally just snap there. So we're just going to go ahead and place that there, and then again, I'm pressing Z to rotate it. With build menu things like this, you cannot move them completely. You can only move them around that direction. Like holding Z will not work on these. They have to snap on the grid, so it's a little tricky to put angled walls on, but it's a decent system. I think it works pretty well and allows you to build. Now see here, I want to fill that gap, but every time I go up here and try and move the wood over there, it's popping to the top. To solve that, I'm going to hold shift, and it's going to automatically lower it to the ground. Anytime you have something above the ground, if you hit shift again, it'll bring it down to ground level. So that's super useful. So you see we bring it up with holding shift, then I just tap shift, brings it back down to ground level. I can also go over here and move it with shift, so I can hold shift down and do that. So now I'm holding shift and I can move it up and down. Works out just fine there. Now I want to add a little something to the front of the shop, so we got this natural wood plank top arch. We're going to select that, and we're going to bring it over and go ahead and place it on top. Now we have this weird blue look. It doesn't really blend in with the wood. So luckily they have these shop fronts that are super useful. You just go ahead and select them, and we're going to try and place on the front. See how it's not going flush? Every time I try and put that, it's going that. Again, we're just going to hit shift, and it's going to go ahead and plop it into space, and we can actually move it to whatever height we like. Now we got to cover the top of our shop. We could have put another wall over here. Don't really need to, but this is a good time to show you guys a tip. So say you lost the piece, you can't find it in the menu. I was like, oh well, I don't want to go searching for it again. Here's what you do. You're just going to go ahead and left click on the piece of wood. You're going to hit Control D. That's the universal control for duplicate in this game. And the great thing about it, even works multiple pieces. I could Control, click, 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 select them, Control D. It's going to go ahead and duplicate those two. I can even left click, select this whole thing, Control D, and it's going to duplicate the whole thing. So that's a great way to build, especially if you're doing highly detailed stuff. Like if I made this wall highly detailed, I could just select all the pieces on it, hit Control D, flip it around, and place it back over there. But right now we're just going to go ahead and head over to roofs, and we're going to get a flat roof here, and then we're going to select, let's go ahead and just do a wood platform. And again, super simple. Sometimes it snaps at the top, sometimes it starts down here. Luckily when we click up here, it's just going to automatically go to the top. It's going to do the same here, here, and here. Here it's going to be a little tricky because we do have something in the way, so it's going to want to sit up there. We're going to hit shift and hold it down and bring that down there. And there we go. We have a nice little wooden shack. Now something really important that they added, I'm glad they did this, is that not all pieces in the build menu are snappable to the grid. And they actually have that visualized now, so check this out. So if we go to like roofs, or where were we, flat roofs, you see all these pieces? So all these, we have these castle roofs, we have these panel roofs, all these sorts of things, these curved platforms. See the kind of the grid behind them on the screen? That's super useful. But now if we go to wooden deck, look, this is now floating around, it is not on a grid. So not all pieces snap to a grid. It's super useful for some things, a little annoying for others, but that's what we kind of had to work with here. Some pieces do, some pieces don't. Now we got this weird wooden deck angle. Looks like a wooden pizza slice. We can place it anywhere on the building. You can just select wherever you want and left click. Again, you can hit Z to rotate it, or you can hold Z and actually rotate these around. Since these guys are not on the grid, you can rotate them around. Or something's cool, if you want to center a piece on a wall or something, you can just hold F. See what it's doing? It's snapping it to the center. You can even go to the top, hold F, and it's going to snap it to the center. There you go. So that's a super useful way of just getting things centered. It's a little weird with this piece just because it is kind of an odd shape, but you can do it here. So it's actually not always centered. I call it centered, but it's not. It snaps it to a base location on the grid. So with that piece, it does that. Let's see, if we grab like this air conditioning unit, it's going to center it as you hold F. And again, you can rotate these around. You can hit spacebar, and it's going to get that on the angle snap right down here. See, hitting spacebar, go ahead and activates that. Now this is an information stand, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to grab this burger sign, and I'm going to introduce you guys into the more complicated control scheme. So we have our burger. We can place it wherever we want. But say we wanted to do something different with it and angle it. So any piece that isn't on a grid, you can open up the advanced build mode by hitting X. So this is going to bring up 3 arrows. That's going to move it in all 3 axes. Up, down, left, right, in, out. So 3-dimensional. Works really well like that. You have a couple of things here. You can reset the position. You can rotate it. You can roll the axis, surface move, or you can build/buy. So we're going to go ahead and make sure angle snap is on. We're going to rotate it around. And we're going to hit, there we go. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Okay, so you can hit X again. Once you're in the screen, there's 2 different options. You can rotate and you can move up and down. So hit X here and moves these directions. Hit X again and it's going to open up the advanced build. And it's going to go ahead and allow you to do things like this. Right now we do have the 15 angle snap on, or 15 degree angle snap. So we have a 15 degree realm of freedom to kind of move this thing around. Hit X again. You can do it whenever you want. It's going to do that. Let's go like have it sticking out of here. Why not? Click build by. And now it placed one, and check it out. So you can actually move it and then actually place it. So we do build by, and it's going to stay there. You can just hit escape to go ahead and leave that. And there you go. We have some burgers sticking out of the side here. Again, this will work with any object that isn't on a grid. It has all those. Check it out. If we take something that is on a grid, we can't do that. I'm hitting X, nothing has happened. You can only rotate it around. So gridded pieces are not able to move in all the directions, but pieces that aren't on the grid are. There you go. So I don't know why some pieces you can't. I'm sure it has to do with the intricacies of the building setup, but it's a system that works pretty well. It gives you a lot of options. It kind of allows you to be a little bit more creative with things. One more thing about this, hitting V aligns things to buildings. So right now, if the standard is you grab a window, you can spin it around and stuff. I try and put it on a building, and it's going to try and align to that. What I can do is hit V, and it's no longer going to behave like that. Again, there's nothing that's telling you whether or not you have it toggled. You kind of just have to learn from experience. We hit V again, and it's going to do that. Check it out. So we hit V, and it's going to snap to wherever you put it. You go up here, hit V again, and it's going to stay on that. So that's a good way if you don't want to open up the advanced build menu. Like I was like, oh, this is laying down. I want it to stand up. I just do that, bring it back over, and it's standing up. So that's a little quick tip for you. So that's pretty much it for the building. You have walls, roofs, doors and windows, decorations, and wall signs. All sorts of different things here. Oh, a tip about wall signs. All the blank ones, thanks to the alpha, now are it's possible to add text on them. So if you select them, you can just do blah 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 blah, just a bunch of gibberish. There you go. Select the text. You have different fonts, or rather typefaces. That's incorrect. It should be typefaces. You can change the text color and the actual sign color. Falling a little bit back to the scenery. All scenery is non-gridded. So scenery pieces are made just for like decorations, not made for actual building of structures. They're broken down into quite a few more categories. We have all of them. We have props, which are broken down animatronics, lights, statues and centerpieces, archways, signs and advertising. You have path extras with benches and trash cans, nature, trees, wall climbers, bushes, rocks, topiary, art shapes, and special effects. These are all broken down into some more subcategories, but scenery is something that you can do a lot of stuff with, especially with these brand new art shapes. Really simple stuff. Scenery, every piece of scenery will have the advanced build menu, so we can go to grab this pirate's cargo. Again, holding shift, move it up and down. You can move it that way. You can tap shift to bring it back down. Hit X to move it in all these directions, real fine tune. Hit X again to rotate them. Super simple stuff. Click on it or hit the whatchamajigger check mark to go ahead and place it. And there you go. You can also select something after you've already placed it, hit X again, and you can move it around. Super simple there. Click again to place it. You can even select the scenery, hit Control D, and now you got another one. But remember, once you place that, it's not going to let you keep placing them. In order to do that, you actually have to open it up from this menu. Paths are relatively straightforward. You have regular paths that are used for guests to kind of traverse the park. You have natural paths, which just either put dirt on the ground or just use whatever terrain is already there. And then you have queues, which are used for the entrances of rides. Placing them is relatively intuitive. You just kind of place them one by one. You can control the angle snap here. So right now you can see I'm kind of snapping around an angle. I can hit spacebar and it is now free. You have the length and the width, so we can adjust that. So it's kind of wiggling around all free. Hit space and now it actually will snap to an angle. Super simple. We can align to a grid. And so you can actually place it on a grid now, because you have a little bit more control, and you can do things like make large plazas like this. You can also do square edges. So that'll allow you to square things out instead of having round pieces of path. That's super useful, brand new there. And then the camera mode is just like the coaster. I prefer to have it on the free mode. This is all new too as well. We have path supports, curve slopes, curb on ground paths. You can see the little curb there. Railing on ground, railing on elevated, railing on ground path. So it just basically allows you to, let's go ahead and get out of that grid. So if we hold down, okay, this is a little more complicated, sorry. There's just so much in this game, I'm trying to explain all at once. So, you want to elevate your path. You hold click and raise up with the mouse, and it's just going to raise that up. There's two different levels there. There's one without stairs and one with stairs. And now that we're up here, we can just do that. Or we can hold click and lower it down and release to do that. So we can even remove the railing on the elevated path, which seems a little bit dangerous, but whatever. And we can even add railing on ground paths. So we get the railing back. We're going to go ahead and hold click. And now we have the railing on the ground path. We can also remove the railing on ground path and the curb on ground path. So now you have no railing and no curb. There you go, just a quick crash course on the path system. And finally, the terrain tool. Oh, we're blowing through these today. Okay, sculpting, super simple. You can pull, you can push, you can flatten the foundation, flatten the surface. Chisel just makes things rougher, smooth them out. And you can also roughen them. Actually, roughen makes things rougher. What was I talking about? All these things are dialable through intensity and size, so you can make it really big or really small. You can also lock scenery, so whether or not you want it to affect scenery. So like right here, you can see we have scenery lock on. So if we go ahead and try and pull this up, it's going to sculpt around that. If we undo that with Control Z and turn off scenery lock, it'll actually go through that. So those are the different things there. Then we have painting. So you have a whole bunch of different paintbrushes here. Again, you can change the size, color, or size and intensity. Each of the maps has sort of different colors and schemes and things, like grass, rocks. It's kind of based on the map type. So this one has a lot of the orange stuff. And then finally, water. Super simple, even simpler. You just make a hole in the ground, grab the water. We're gonna do the calm water, and wherever you see the blue line, that's where you can place the water, because that's where the actual limit of the edge is. If it turns red, you can no longer place it up there. But since this thing is such a nice hole, it's perfectly round, we can go and place it there. Left click, right click on it to remove it. You can change the height. You can also change it to dirty water by right clicking on these, switch it up. Or wait, sorry, that was rough water. We can remove that. We can do standing water, right click, or we can do dirty water. And finally for the controls, we have undo and redo here. Control Z, Control Y. Most people know that. You can set the lighting now. So no matter what time of day it is, you can set the lighting, 10 a.m., 10 p.m., things like that. Here's the time and date right there. Here's the speeds right here, which you can change with O. So hitting O will change it up to 1 time speed, 2 times speed, 3 times speed. Just makes things move along quite a bit faster. And hitting P will pause the game. Whew, man. Okay, well that should be it for this crash course on Planet Coaster controls. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this made it a little bit clearer. If you guys have any more questions about the controls, things like that, definitely let me know in the comments below. I'll be more than willing to help you out. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Want to see more things like this in the future. If you have any other questions or guides you want me to make for Planet Coaster, feel free to let me know. I'll probably be doing some like scenery guides and things like that in the future. Just give you guys a little bit more insight on how I do scenery. I'll see you next time. Bye.